So here is module 7. Now module 7 is all about, and it's called Mind Over Matter. And to me, this is a particularly important subject. They all are, they're all part of the whole journey and they're all as important. But this one particularly, I can't stress enough as being something that we must look at. And regardless of whether you're fighting some kind of chronic disease or whether you are just literally looking at a way to reset your health, we really got to look at the impact of our mind and our emotions on the physical body. Yeah. So this is all about mind over matter. This is how the impact of what you're thinking about and what you're going through emotionally and through your thought process, the impact of that on your body. And I will say this, that the mind and the body are not separate things. We talk about it, mind, body and soul, like they're three separate things, like they're silos. They're not. You have to work, and we talked about this right at the beginning. Remember in module 1, we looked about, why me and looking at the mind. And I said to you, they have to operate together. And we talked about this whole thing about there is no point having your head together but being morbidly obese and unhealthy physically, or being ripped to shreds and healthy and fit in your body but being messed up in your head, okay? They have to work together because one impacts the other, and that's why it's really important. Now, this particular element that I'm going to start about is looking at fear, because fear plays a massive role in particularly on the impact on the body, because we tend to, as people, move between anxiety and fear. We live in these kind of two states, and that's what this first element of Mind Over Matter is. But this whole module, it's kind of a deep dive into the importance of the mind. Now, I know, particularly in my journey, that I was the last person anyone expected to get cancer. Physically incredibly fit. I taught Pilates, I did lots of training, I was incredibly fit, very toned for someone of my age. I think I was 54 or something when I was diagnosed, and incredibly fit. And I was probably doing, I think at the time I was doing 4 or 5 fitness classes a day, and I was teaching it. I was running a wellness and detox centre in Asia at the time. I was also very healthy with my food and my diet and my lifestyle. But one of the key things for me was long-term emotional trauma and long-term stress, a really significant stress. And I went through a period of very long-term emotional trauma, significant trauma, that I didn't really deal with. I didn't really look at. I kept trying to be super mum, super woman, and trying to just pile it on, yes, I can do this stuff. And we seem to sort of be thinking we can get a badge for the more stuff that we do. And actually, I think we need to start looking at this quite significantly in the world, that there's nothing great about overloading yourself and becoming more and more stressed. And I think it's something that particularly the Western world is a bit of an epidemic. So this whole area, this whole module is all around the mind. So I want to talk first about overcoming fear. Now, particularly with regard to the cancer journey, I get it. Seriously, I get it. Obviously, I'm sitting here all positive and up and trying to get you into all this healthy stuff. And you may think, well, she looks like she's breezed through it all. I've been there. I sat in the waiting room of a hospital in Bangkok, the only Western person surrounded by Thai people waiting for the diagnosis. I knew I had stage 3 breast cancer. I already knew that. I was waiting for the diagnosis of the PET scan and whether else it was in my body. And of course, when you don't know the results, you expect the worst, don't you? You're sitting there, I was sitting there waiting for this final results of the PET scan, expecting someone to say it's all over your body, you've got 6 months to live, So I sat in the waiting room. I'm going to share this story with you because it will have a relevance when we come on to one of the modules around faith and belief. So I'm sitting in the waiting room. I'm waiting to get the PET scan results. I know I've already got breast cancer and it's stage 3. I've already been told that at that time. And you know what? I was absolutely gripped with fear. The fear was so overwhelming. It was so debilitating that I almost couldn't move with the fear. It was horrendous. You could almost taste it. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. And I know that when you get that diagnosis and when somebody even mentions the word cancer, it's hugely fearful. The first thing you go into is this massive sense of fear around your mortality, yeah. And because there is a lot of fear around it, yeah, and there are a lot of stories that don't come out great, but there are also some amazing success stories. So let's focus on the success ones. But I sat in the waiting room and I said, now I'm a Buddhist, I'm a practicing Buddhist, and I chant, I'm a Nichiren Buddhist, and I chant in the mornings and in the evenings. So I'm not one for praying as such. I've been a practicing Buddhist for some years. But I sat in this waiting room, and this is regardless of any faith you have. This is not for me to start talking about that at this moment in time. But I actually said out loud, God, if you're listening to me, if there is anyone listening to me here, I can get through all of this that's going on, all of it, if you just take away this fear. Take away this fear, and I will get through this. And no word of a lie, genuinely, as I'm sitting here, within minutes of saying it, I felt a rush of energy come up through my feet, through my body, all the way up, almost like someone was filling a tank of water. It came up through my body and it hovered above my head. So much so that I looked around and I was thinking, can anyone see this? This is kind of weird. What the hell is this? And it felt like someone had filled the tank. And then all of a sudden, I felt this pull, like someone had pulled the plug out from below me, and whoosh, this like water energy, whatever it was, feeling whooshed through my body and out through my body, out through my feet, and went. And no word of a lie, the fear was gone. It was the most, I can feel it as if I was going through it right now. The fear was gone. Completely taken from me. And from that moment on, my journey started, and I felt that I could take the power back from my health and bring that back to myself. And I went in to see the oncologist to be told that it was actually, the cancer was isolated in certain parts of my body and it was treatable. But from that point on, I was able to overcome that fear and use the whole journey as energy and fuel for me, and power me up to actually want to fight and to put the disciplines in place to attack this cancer from all levels. So I need to talk about this, and we will talk about it a little bit later in some of the other elements of the modules. And we'll talk about it when we look at belief and faith, about overcoming fear. But I get that fear is a major part and a major factor. And through this module, we're going to look at ways that you can overcome, and some tools and some techniques and some tips that you can adopt to overcome some elements of that fear, to give you your power back so that it's not debilitating, so that you can use that energy within yourself to heal your body. Because the fear can be quite debilitating, and it can put you in a state of quite immense lower. In fact, it does lower your immune system. Okay, so we're going to look at fear, but I just wanted to share that particular element of my journey with you, because it was unreal. Yeah, and I can't explain it. I really can't explain it. And I'm not here to talk to you about God and belief and all that. We will look at faith and belief later, but I just wanted to share that journey with you. So we're going to share those tips today about what we're going to do around the whole fear-based mindset approach. Okay. So in this element of the module, I want to talk about positive talk and self-talk, and what you say to yourself, and why it's really, really important, and the impact of that on your body. Now, I talked quite significantly earlier about what you say to yourself and your mindset, and fear. We talked about fear. Now, it's really, really, really important that you really guard your thoughts. And I'm going to share a little bit more information with you a little bit later, and we will put a link on here that you can actually look into to supplement what we're talking about today. But what are we saying in terms of self-talk? It's really important that you guard what you say to yourself. I genuinely believe that I got cancer because I told myself for years that I wasn't good enough. I overcompensated, I overachieved, and if you Google me, you can see I've been a serial entrepreneur and this, that, and everything else, and that was my driver. But I overcompensated for a lack of self-belief, for an insecurity, and a self-talk that was particularly negative. And sometimes we can hover between two states. We either spend our time looking back to the past, so we look back, and that can cause a little bit of sadness and depression and regret and maybe bereavement over things that haven't actually happened, or that have happened that you wanted to happen another way. You can't change it. So we kind of hover between the past, which causes a little bit of sadness and depression, or we go future thinking, and we go into looking at, oh, what if I do this, or this happens, or what if that happens, and what if this happens, and that causes anxiety. And we tend to hover between past and future, which gives us either depression or anxiety, and we go between these two states. And you've heard of fight or flight, but there also is this middle ground that we don't really mention too much, and that's frozen. You can get actually stuck in the middle. You actually get to the point where you just don't even know whether to go forward or back. You just literally are frozen. And at one point I got to that stage. I would have been so much impacted on me and so much stress over a long period of time that I actually got to the point where I really didn't know which way to go. And I think it really lowered my immune system and brought those cells to the fore, and I wasn't able to combat them. But anyway, how can we overcome this? That's the key thing. So start to be aware. This is what mindfulness is about. Start to be aware and start to guard your thought process. Yeah. Now, if you start finding yourself, now this is really important on this cancer journey. It's really important you don't indulge in negative thinking and what if this and what if that, because as soon as you find yourself doing that, you need to find a mechanism to stop yourself. Now, one of the really good useful tools is, and they use it actually in the AA program, and it was very, very effective, is you can put an elastic band, one of those horrible elastic bands, that really pulls on your hair, round your wrist. And every time you have a negative thought, ping that elastic band. It hurts like hell, let me tell you. But what will happen is you'll have a neuro association with having a negative thought and pain. And it will actually click your mind away from negative thinking and force you to have to flick it. Now, if you start thinking something negative, I want you to start catching yourself, and I want you to immediately, and it won't happen straight away, it's a practice, yeah? You are what you practice. You have to flick that thought into something positive. I don't care what it is, but you find something positive that you can flick that thought into, right? You've got to flip this thought. So as soon as you hear yourself saying something negative and judging yourself and saying something bad about yourself, or starting to worry or starting to regret, you've got to flip that into something positive, okay? So that's one tool, and there are loads of others. We can talk about this, and we talk about it on Facebook. I do a thing called Mindful Monday, and every Monday I share a mindfulness tip with you. So go on the Facebook page, it's free. Every Monday there's a Mindful Monday issue right there, so you can talk about that. The other thing that's really, really good is to get yourself a positive mantra that you say to yourself over and over and over and over again. And when I was going through the actual cancer treatment journey that I went through, the chemotherapy, the surgery, and the radiotherapy, I had a mantra that I said to myself over and over and over again, thousands of times a day in my head and even out loud in the car. I said to myself, I am strong, vibrant, healthy and well. I'm strong, vibrant, healthy and well. I'm strong, vibrant, healthy and well. I'm strong, vibrant, healthy and well. I said it over and over and over and over and over again. I was programming my cells to be strong, vibrant, healthy and well. Now, you might think that's a bit odd. Well, I'm going to share a link with you that you can go on to YouTube and you can have a look at some significant work that will show you the importance of what you say and what you think, and the importance and the effect of that on your cells at a cellular level, right? I'm going to share that with you. We'll touch on that in a second. Now, if you want to come up with a mantra that's going to work for you, and it doesn't mean if you're going through, it could be any time in your life, how do you come up with a really positive mantra? Right. Write down, get it out of your head, a list of all the states that you'd like to feel good about, right? All the positive states you'd love to feel at any one time. You dump it out of your head, so you write them all down. Happy, excited, inspiring, energetic, all of the things that you'd like to feel in a positive sense. You just write them all out, brain dump them onto a piece of paper, right? Sit back, take a breath, calm down, relax a little bit, take some space. You'll need to do this on your own with a little bit of space. Then I want you to look at that piece of paper, and I want you to look at 3 words on that paper that really resonate with you, that you'd like to be in that state, like constantly be in that state. 3. Absolute maximum 4. I chose 4, but 3, maximum 4. And then you're going to put the words, you're going to write a sentence, I am X, X and X. That's your mantra. That's your positive affirmation that you're going to say to yourself all the time. I chose those 4 words because I felt they were great for me and they worked for me. They kind of resonated with me. So I chose, I am strong, vibrant, healthy and well. And I said it over and over and over and over and over again to myself, okay? So find a mantra that works for you, because every time you have a negative thought, you're going to say this. You're going to say this mantra over and over again. And even if you're not combating illness and it's something that you want to feel confident and inspiring and all those kinds of things, you're going to say that when you walk in the room, you're going to say that when you walk into a meeting, you're going to say that when you're driving, you're going to say it when you're walking down the street, you're going to say that every single time. Your cells are going to start to believe, and your body is going to start to operate at that energetic level, because you are going to start programming your body and your cells to operate that way. You watch. It's almost magic how your body shifts, okay? Now, if you don't believe me and you think this sounds all a little bit EBGB, I get it. I understand you're probably feeling that way. I want you to look at Emoto's work, right? Emoto, Japanese researcher and photographer, and I'm going to share the link with you so you can go on and have a look. He took photographs, molecular structures of the water. So he took molecular photographs of water, okay? And what they did is they took water and they talked to the same water, put it in 2 different containers. And in one set of the water, he took a photograph of the water after it had been spoken to in a way of saying things, negative things like, I hate you, you're ugly, you're crap, you're never going to amount to anything, blah, 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 blah. And on this water, they said, I love you, you're amazing, look at you, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful, you're energetic. Okay, did that. They also did it with reservoirs, they did it with lakes. They took large spaces of water and they got nuns to go and pray over it, and they took the water before and afterwards. They did all sorts of experiments with water before and after either positive phrases or negative phrases. Now, the photographs are unbelievable. They're almost unbelievable to see, and they're all on that YouTube thing that I'm going to share with you. The photographs are the ones where the water was spoken to in a harsh, negative, really bad way were grotesque. The molecules were all disfigured. They were all like globular and really kind of disfigured and horrible, right? The water, the same water that was spoken to in a positive, loving, energetic way came out like perfect symmetrical snowflakes, right? Now, unbelievable, you see it visually. I mean, it really is quite, it's quite strong, right? It really affects you. Now, he said that if the body is made up of 60-70% water, then obviously what we say to ourselves and what we think has an absolutely massive effect on the cells of our body, because the majority of us is water. So you think of the impact of what you say and what you think on your body and what you're saying to yourself. Now, I told myself I wasn't good enough, I was worthless, I was this, that and everything else. Outwardly I looked very successful, but inwardly I was telling myself these things over and over again. I was affecting myself at a cellular level, and I believe it dropped my cells. It caused a disfigurement and an imbalance in my cells, and the cancer cells were able to rise. I genuinely believe that. I suggest, please look at Emoto's work. Regardless of the journey you're on, I want you to really guard your thoughts, right? Really guard your thoughts. And one more point before I close on this, and as you can probably see, I could talk about this all day, is this. How do you think a placebo works? Now, when they do trials for pharmacies, yes, for a pharmaceutical drug, they have to do a placebo trial as well as part of that protocol in order to launch a drug onto the market. Okay? And part of that is that they have to have a placebo group. What is a placebo? It's a sugar pill. You tell a group of people that if they take this sugar pill, it's going to cure their sore throat or this illness or that illness, and then you give another group the actual tablet, the one that the drug company have been researching and they want to put out in the market, and they look at the two. And there will be a significant percentage of people in the placebo group, the ones that are taking the sugar pill, who will seriously cure themselves with that pill because they genuinely believe it is going to cure them. And doctors over the years, and lots of people over the years, loads of studies on it, don't take my word for it, have cured people with placebos, because placebos work. If you give someone a sugar pill and you say you take that every day, it's going to cure you, genuinely people have cured themselves through just a sugar pill because they believe it's going to cure them. That is the power of the mind. Do not underestimate it, please. This is one of the most important things I'm going to say in the whole of this cancer series, is what you tell yourself and what you think about is so important to your health and who you are as a person, okay? So please, I urge you to guard your thoughts and look at this quite significantly. This is a very important module. Okay, so let's look at support groups, because we've talked about mindfulness and we've talked about your thoughts and your processes, and that's very much about you and you alone. And I know that this journey can be, you can feel very alone in this, yeah? And I know a few times, you get this whole, we talked about it in module 1 about why me and it's not fair and I don't understand it and all of that sort of stuff, and I get that. And I think one of the key things is this acceptance, that this is what's happening to you. And it's in the non-acceptance where the stress comes. If once you accept that this is happening to you, then you can start to take your power back and do something about it, okay? So let's look at support groups, because there's not a one size fits all around this. And it's really important that you have your own journey, but also that you do need support and that you're not facing this completely on your own. Because I know, for instance, that I'll be honest with you, and I'm not proud of this, but I'm going to be honest. There were times when I looked at people in the street, people who were kind of morbidly obese or people smoking, and I would think, why have I got cancer? And they're walking around all healthy, and yet they're morbidly obese or they're smoking. So, well, this is not fair. This isn't fair. There's me, fit and healthy and exercising and a vegetarian and I eat vitamins. Why have I got cancer? And they haven't, And I'm not proud of those thoughts, but I'm going to be honest with you. There were feelings like that came up, okay? Because it does feel like you're the only person in the world that's got it. But let me assure you that, as I said, I'm going to say this statistic again, particularly in the UK, I know that it's 1 in 2 people are diagnosed with cancer, okay? So you're not alone. Unfortunately, very sadly, you are not alone. So think about the support that you need, and it was really important. I spoke about this again in the introductory module, in module 1, about having the right people around you. Now you will learn, I think you'll learn, I certainly learned, who were the right people around you, because when you have a diagnosis like a cancer treatment or something significant or a chronic disease, you certainly know who your friends and who your family are, because the really supportive people show up. And actually, sometimes it can be quite surprising. It's the people who least expect it that can be the most supportive. And the ones that you really expect to be there aren't there, okay? So just keep an open mind. But do not believe that you have to do all of this on your own. It's incredibly important to have the right support around you. Now, there are lots of things you can do. Now, what can you do around support? Well, you can join a support group. Now, for me, I found a support group not the most comfortable thing, only because I found myself saturated, surrounded by it. Every day I'm going to hospital, every day I'm talking around this whole cancer journey I was. And then did I really want to be going socialising and all sorts of events and trips and everything, talking about it constantly the whole time? And so for me, that didn't work. But actually other people find support groups, cancer support groups, very, very beneficial, because they're able to talk to somebody who understands, who's also going through the same journey. So I get that. So really look to yourself and find out what's the best thing for you, what's going to work for you. And there are some fabulous support groups out there that are really beneficial. I know lots of women and lots of men get a huge amount of support from these kinds of groups. So just ask yourself what's going to work for you. If a kind of support group, an official support group, isn't the journey for you, isn't the right way for you, that's fine. But then find a support group within your friends and family that are going to work for you, and find the people that you genuinely believe you can be honest with and open with, and who can help you when you're feeling tired, maybe when you're feeling a bit sick, when you're a bit down, when you haven't got the energy to cook or do those sorts of things. And there are going to become those moments. I had those moments. And certain people in my family and friends were amazing, and they stepped up for me. They came and maybe cooked lunch, or they helped clear up, or they helped me, because I don't have a partner in life at the moment, and I was there, and I have still got my 2 daughters to support. So they were an enormous benefit to me, and I found that support that worked very, very well for me. So just have a look at support and put the right support in place that works for you. Okay, so this whole section is around mindfulness. Now, it's the kind of buzzword at the moment, isn't it? Mindfulness, and everyone's talking about mindfulness and all of this, and there's all sorts of courses on it, and it's all going out there, and it's like kind of like a new thing. Well, it's not new, it's been around thousands of years. Talk to Buddhist practices, and it's a huge area in terms of Asian culture and the Eastern philosophies. So mindfulness, what is it? What is mindfulness? Well, there's nothing complicated about it, actually, and it doesn't need to be shrouded in any form of mystery or any kind of type of protocol. It's about being aware. It's about being aware. Now, if nothing else, this whole journey this year, and I was always kind of aware anyway, but if nothing else, it's forced me to become even more aware. Not just aware of yourself physically, but aware of yourself mentally. And we talked a bit earlier about guarding your thoughts. Now, mindfulness is about being aware. Now, in order to be aware, we now need to slow down. Yeah? We need to slow down enough to be aware of ourselves physically and to be aware of ourselves mentally. So how can you do some of these things? So I want you to start looking at the mind and body and start to become much more aware of yourself, okay? And having an appreciation of just slowing things down a little bit. You know what? Everything is going to get done. Everything is going to get done. And if it doesn't, who cares, really? Unless it's absolutely important and essential, does it all have to be done right now? Okay, well, does it all have to be done? So just think about these kinds of things. Now, how can you become more aware? Well, first of all, it's slowing down. Now, there are some techniques that you can use. One of the things I like to do is I have on my mobile phone, I have an alarm that goes off every hour. And if I'm in something or a meeting and I can't have the alarm go off, it vibrates. And what that does is whenever it vibrates, it forces me or reminds me to breathe. Does that sound odd? Well, it forces me to breathe. What do? I take 3 slow breaths. So I could be in a meeting, nobody really knows what I'm doing, but I feel that vibration on my phone, or if I'm out and about and the alarm goes off, I suddenly become much more aware of where I am, and I breathe. I take 3 breaths, and I take a deep breath in through the nose very slowly for a count of 8, and I hold it for 4 seconds, and then I breathe out through the mouth for 7 or 8, and I do it 3 times. Now you can do that, it doesn't take long. You'd think, it takes ages, it takes seconds. But just the very act of doing that breath work slows everything down. Why do you think that when you go into panic mode or paramedics come and see you, they get you to breathe slowly, or they breathe in a bag or whatever, yeah? It slows everything down. Now, when we start to rush around and panic and get stressed, our breathing gets more and more shallow. And when our breathing gets more and more shallow, we're actually starving the brain of oxygen. And then our brain starts getting into a panic mode, thinking, we haven't got enough oxygen. So it starts going into this whole fight or flight kind of mode. And then it raises the amygdala and all the whole cortisol gets triggered off. And then you're going into a stressed environment now. Your body and your mind are now stressed without you even thinking about it. You get to a point now, actually, in the Western world where we don't even know we're stressed, because we kind of function at that level. That's what we function at. We kind of function at that slightly shallow breath, slightly on a bit of a charge, on that sort of upper gear level all the time, because that's the expectation, and you don't realise it until you slow down. Interesting, when you go on holiday or if you go to somewhere there where they have a really chilled out, kind of vibe there, you can find yourself getting a bit frustrated with people if they're a bit slow and everything, and you want to look to yourself about that and think, well, is it them or is it me? Am I bringing my kind of stress into that environment? Am I bringing my pace into them, or should I kind of try and adopt this kind of thing about slowing everything down a little bit? And I used to get 150 miles an hour, so I know how it works. Yeah, I've learned to slow everything down. Now, the breath is the connection between the mind and the body, and it's very important that you get that breathing. Just breathe and slow everything down. Get some oxygen into your body. What that does, it calms your whole body down. It calms the mind down. Your mind's not going into panic mode. the cortisol relaxes, the adrenal glands relax, everything starts to relax. Your immune system calms down, everything calms down. Also, when you get a bit mindful and a bit more aware of your thoughts, you'll know that when you eat something or you put something in your body, how it affects you. Yeah? I've sort of learned, the slower that I've got, that if I eat certain things and it doesn't feel right, I know, oh, that's interesting. Every time I have this, I get this kind of jittery feeling, or I feel a bit bloated, or that's interesting, you know? And you start to notice things that are happening, and you start to notice. The other thing is, and we talked about toxic people, and we might talk about them a little bit later when we look at toxins. There's a whole section on toxins. You'll start to become aware of how certain people make you feel when you start to become a little bit more aware. You might be in someone's presence and you might come away thinking, do you know what, whenever I'm with that person, I always feel a bit lesser of myself. I always start to question myself. I always think I feel a bit stressed around them. So just becoming aware, and this is what mindfulness is about, and I urge you to start looking into this kind of practice. And as I said, there's lots of free stuff out there and lots of support for you to start looking at this, but the key thing is to slow down, use the breath, find some moments where you can reflect and slow and become more aware of yourself and be honest with yourself, yeah? And again, I said to you earlier, on the Facebook group every Monday there's Mindful Monday, and you can have a look at some really useful tools and tips that you can do on there, and they should be able to help you on the mindful journey. Okay, so we've come to the last little element of Module 7, and what do I want to talk to you about? I want to talk to you about meditation. And I know it's banded around everywhere and everyone talks about it, and then you maybe have tried it and you find it really difficult. Of course it is difficult. Otherwise everyone would be doing it would all be Buddhist monks and very enlightened and Zen. Unfortunately we're not. So it isn't always easy, because we've had years and years and years of allowing the mind to do what the hell it likes, okay? So it's like any muscle. If you've allowed yourself to do whatever you like and not trained your muscles for so long, and all of a sudden you start to use that muscle, it's going to hurt, yeah? When you use that muscle for the first time, it's going to hurt and it's going to feel a bit alien, and it's the same with the mind. So what is meditation and why is it beneficial for you? Well, regardless of any spiritual practice, it has been proven, and there's so many studies out there, I'm not even going to go into them, so many studies about how beneficial it is to your health. Okay, and meditation particularly allows your whole body to calm down and slow down, and it's incredible. It allows your cells to regenerate and gives you a huge clarity of thought, and you don't have to sit in a cave for half an hour a day, or spend an hour a day, or go to some silent retreat every other week, or whatever. You don't have to do all of that stuff. You can start to bring meditation into your daily practice. Okay. And what do I talk about practice? Well, if you wanted to be a really good golfer, what would you have to do? You'd have to go and practice, right? David Beckham became bloody good at football because when all his other friends were out there having a laugh and partying and doing what the hell they liked, he was on the football pitch practicing every day. Yeah? Tiger Woods became, red hot as a golfer because he practiced every single day, right? Every single day. You are what you practice. If you tell yourself you're crap, you are what you practice. If you tell yourself every day that you're not good enough, or you're worthless, or you're this or you're that, you are what you practice. You'll get really good at it. You'll get really good at feeling worthless. You'll get really good at being negative. You are what you practice, yeah? If you trained every day, if you did half an hour of sport every day, you'd get really good at it. If you swam every day, you'd get really good at it. You are what you practice. That's a fact. Nothing EBGB or spiritual about that at all. So, meditation. It's as simple as this, she says, because we know it isn't simple, but the practice of it is simple. Find a quiet place, and you don't even have to do it quietly. I actually sit down. If I go on a plane journey, when everybody is messing about with their suitcases and everything else and putting their bags up, and I just sit in my seat with my hands in my lap, and I close my eyes, and I meditate. And I wait for the chaos to subside around me, and it's great. And what do I do? How do I meditate? Well, all I do, sounds so trite, doesn't it? All I do is I focus on the breath. And you focus on the breath coming in into your belly, into your solar plexus, into the center here, into this space. You focus on the breath coming in and you focus on the breath leaving. And it is literally as simple as that. Now, what will happen is, of course, it's absolutely a given that your mind will start to wander off, because it's always done that. We've had years of it, of our mind doing what the hell it likes, all over the place, goes wherever it likes. Oh, we're thinking about this now. Oh, you're halfway through there, you're chatting to someone, then you're thinking about, oh, I forgot to put that out. And then you're talking to someone else, or then you're thinking about this thing, and then your mind's going all over the place. You're talking to somebody, you're actually not actually listening to them sometimes, you're actually thinking about what you're either going to say, or whether you've put the thing in for food, or whether you should have... Our mind's all over the place. It's like an untrained beast. Yeah. So when you actually come to sit down and you just close your eyes, and you can do an open eye meditation. Personally, you can look at what works for you, but I find a closed eye one a little bit easier, because it just brings you into sense of self. It just closes you off from the distractions of the outside world and brings you into sense of self. And all you do is just breathe, and breathe through your solar plexus area, through your diaphragm. And you focus on the breath coming in and the breath coming out, and you'll feel everything start to slow down. When a thought comes in, don't fight it. Don't start to have this fight, because that's the whole point of it. Just notice it. Just go, that's interesting. Okay. And you may find yourself going off with your thought space, and like 15 minutes later, you've gone off, 10 minutes later, thinking about all sorts of other stuff. And you suddenly realise, oh God, I'm thinking. Back in the room, just pull your mind back to the breathing, and that's what it is. And the more you do it, the more you get used to bringing your mind back to that breathing, the more beneficial it'll be, and eventually you'll be able to start sitting there for a little bit longer. So start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, if you can just practice that, and you will see incredible benefits. The other thing it does is it gives you a sense of clarity in your mind. Things will come to you much clearer. Ideas will come to you. You will open your mind up to opportunities and possibilities, and you will calm the mind and the body right down. It's an incredibly powerful tool. I think I mentioned earlier that I'm a practicing Buddhist and I chant, so I'm part of a Nichiren Buddhist practice, SGI, and our practice is chanting, and it's a similar process in terms of meditation. The chanting is shutting out all the outside noise and giving you a level of focus in your mind. But whatever practice you decide, I think meditation above all else is incredibly beneficial to you physically and mentally. And if you can start to adopt that practice in small quantities to start with, you'll see the benefits. Okay? And good luck with the journey. And if you have any issues with it, or you want support in it, you can email me, and I'm more than happy to support you in that, or go on the Mindful Monday where we share some more stuff. Okay, so we're closing up Module 7 now, and I hope you can realise and see from what we've discussed, there's a huge amount of content here to take in, I get it, and there's a lot to talk about. I really cannot urge enough how important this whole section is. I really cannot. And I think it would be beneficial for you to go over this particular module, because this is, out of all of them, is one of the most important factors of your recovery and your healing journey. Yeah. So please guard your thoughts, become mindful, slow down. Give yourself a positive mantra that you say to yourself, and try, if you can, to adopt some kind of meditative practice that's going to enable you to have that, take your power back, and to slow down and get that clarity of thought and purpose back into your life. Okay, I urge you, what you think and what you say to yourself and what you allow to happen in your mind is incredibly powerful, and you must take that control back. It's really important. So thank you for listening through Module 7. I know it's a lot to take in, but connect with me if you need any further support.